Welcome to the first episode of Contro-History, where I choose a controversial topic from history and make a scenario about what if that event never happened. This episode's topic, what if Japan was never nuked? Oh, well, that's easy. If Japan was never nuked, then hundreds of thousands of people wouldn't have died, right? Yeah, you're right. It would have been millions. So for some backstory for those who might be fuzzy on the end of World War II, at the final days after Hitler killed himself and the Soviets had entered Berlin, the US and Japanese were still fighting in the Pacific. President Truman wanted to end the war with a Japanese surrender, so he ordered the first nuclear attack on a city. The bomb called Little Boy dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, and the blast wiped out 160,000 people and 70% of the city's buildings. The bomb vaporized its main target, the 2nd General Army Training Grounds at Hiroshima Castle, and also a radius of 900 yards around it. Japan still didn't surrender, and on August 9th, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan. This, and after another bombing, this time in Nagasaki, which killed 80,000, only then did Japan surrender unconditionally to the Americans. So with the sheer horror and scale of these attacks, it really has brought out the moral questioning of the Americans. Did Truman need to use the bomb? Was it worth the deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians? These are very commonly debated questions. The devastation of the two bombings were horrendous and one of the worst events ever seen in human history, yet we need to look at the other options which we faced at the time. Let's think what would have happened if America never did create a nuclear bomb or use one. Yes, Hiroshima and Nagasaki never would have been nuked, but that doesn't mean they would have never been destroyed. There were two options the Americans had about how they would finally deal with Japan. One was the nuclear option, which until a month before Hiroshima, nobody knew what such a bomb would look like. The second was a full-scale military invasion of Japan. After the fall of Germany, the American military and public were both expecting to invade the island. There were posters that were preparing the public for a new campaign against the Japanese to finish the job. Now of these options, nuclear or invasion, the nuclear option was the best choice. An invasion of the Japanese homeland would have been so horrible and massive that it probably would have been seen as the third front, the Japanese front. Keep in mind that Japan defended such unimportant and small areas with extreme devotion. The Battle of Iwo Jima was over a small, lifeless volcanic island which Japan had no connection to, other than they had a military on it. 6,000 Americans died taking it, and over 22,000 Japanese died to defend it. We see the similar pattern throughout the Pacific War. In Guadalcanal, 70,000 Allies dead and over 30,000 Japanese. Solomon Islands, 10,000 Allies dead and 80,000 Japanese. Battle of Okinawa, in which 72,000 Americans died in just 82 days. And these were lands which Japan invaded, which they had no cultural or historical ties to. Now imagine if their homeland was invaded. Today we know of an operation planned by America called Operation Downfall. This was the amphibious invasion of Japan, and it planned to take down the Japanese just like the Allies did with Germany. Had it occurred, Operation Downfall and the invasion of Japan would have been the largest amphibious operation in human history. This would have dwarfed D-Day and anything before. This new stage of the war would not be a small 1 to 2 year event. This campaign would take many, many years. The thing was that due to Japan's geography, the Japanese knew there would be only a couple places where the Americans would attack. And so they built up, and they took their most elite units to defend the homeland. Japan was prepared for an invasion by America, and America was prepared for an invasion of Japan. Had we not nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we would have seen a third part to the war. This part would be the equivalent to the Soviets and the Nazis, and in scale of the European war. Had we not invented nukes and used them, America would have invaded a fortress of elite soldiers and dedicated warriors. The total amount of American deaths in World War II was 400,000. The estimated amount in an invasion of Japan would be 800,000 American deaths. in over 3 million other American casualties. Japan had over 2 million deaths in all of World War II. Had an invasion occurred, over 5 to 10 million Japanese fatalities. To put that in the scale, 9 million Russians died in World War II, and over 5 million Germans died. Speaking of the Soviets, had we invaded Japan, we would have not gone alone. Russia would have invaded Japan from the north, as we would from the south. Had this occurred eventually after so many years of fighting, the Soviets and Americans would have most likely split the island from north and south. We don't know what would have happened after this, but most likely a communist government would be set up in the north, as a democratic or non-communist government would be set up in the south. When putting these fatalities and situations into perspective, it makes sense why America did what they did. Was it horrible that we nuked two cities? Absolutely. Did those civilians deserve to die? No. But when we put the other scenario into perspective, we see how the nuclear option was truly the only safe and clean-cut way to end the war and let Japan keep its sovereignty, as well as save millions of American and Japanese lives alike. Have any ideas for our next Contro-History video? Tell us in the comments. Coming soon, I'll upload part 4 of the Roman series and also part 2 of What If the Japanese Empire Survived? I didn't forget, don't worry. Until then, like us on Facebook and subscribe if you have not done so. This is Cody from the Alternate History Hub.